Right, second instalment of a rare Sunday for the boys. We're looking to Portman Road this time. Liam Tully's home track. Big man in the corner. We'll see if he can get hopefully in attendance.
One of the
later in
best
the
grounds in the championship, I must add.
Love it. Love it. JFT with a cheap shot. Just 19 seconds into the video. We've got something going
I'm
on.
amazed it took him that long. I thought he did
I'm
it in
surprised.
5.
I'm
Took him
surprised
too
it
long.
took that long. Right, Fabio Wardley's got his homecoming. Then it's Justis Huni that he's facing in the end. It was meant to be Big Baby Jarrell Miller. Some good build up coming on with that one. There was a little cheeky slap at the presser, wasn't there? But fair play to Justis Huni for answering the call. I don't know if either of you boys watched the little face off they did with Darren Barker, and the promoters were there. I quite like what I was hearing out of Huni for that one. To be fair, seemed pretty straight talking. Liam, with me and you watched a few of his fights on the watch alongs, haven't we? His last few, he hasn't been up to much these opponents or anything like that. But the big thing they're playing on, Jay, in my opinion, is like Huni's got the skills and the amateur background. Maybe I know I hate this white collar Fabio. You know, he's a professional boxer and he's had 18 fights, 17 fights, whatever he's had. You know, he's yes, he had no amateur pedigree, but he's a very, very good fighter, Fabio Wardley. And do you know what? He talks really well. That's one thing I like about Fabio.
I like him.
He's really, really well spoken. I think that's why he gets a lot of analyst gigs for like the big Riyadh cards that he's not fighting on and stuff. I just think that he's a likable character, Fabio, for sure. So yeah, look, both of them coming in undefeated, boys. So somebody's always going to go. It's WBA number 1 versus WBO number 1, I believe, in the rankings. So 18-0, obviously the draw to Fraser Clark, which he rectified last time out for Fabio, and 12-0 for Huni. So more fights for Fabio, but more experience probably if you want to include the amateurs for the Australian. Yeah, give me your thoughts, boys. I'm really intrigued by it. I think this is a really, really good fight, and I think I'll give my prediction a little bit later, but I think we'll get a little bit of a shootout here.
I don't rate Huni. I don't rate him. I don't think he's as good as we're being led to believe. He's big. He has a decent skill set. He reminds me, and you know, you might think I'm talking utter bollocks when I say this, as opposed to me not normally talking bollocks, which is what I normally do. But look, we've seen Olympic gold medalists turn over, and I'll give you one example. I know he's not, but Audley Harrison, for example, you couldn't get near him as an amateur. Boxed the head off people and was absolutely dog shit as a pro. And I'm not saying Huni's dog shit, but I don't believe that the skill set is transferable. And the things that got him through fights in amateurs and got him wins were shorter fights, shorter rounds. Yeah. Now that he's stepped up and he's doing 8 threes, 10 threes, and ultimately 12 threes, I think he'll get found out. I think he's tough, holds a good shot, gives a good shot. I just think Fabio Wardley has improved exponentially this last 2 years, right? To not just have a draw with Fraser Clark. I will add, I thought he lost that fight. Only just, but I do think he lost that fight.
Fraser won the first one.
But irrespective of that, on paper, it was a draw, and he more than made up for the draw. He reckons it was a lackluster performance. He got drawn into it, fought emotionally. He also got a pretty terrible nose injury fairly early on in the fight and managed to fight through the fire, which gives you something extra. He knows he can go to the well. He knows he can do it when he's back, when everything's up against him. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's where I see it, Jay. That's where I see this difference. Fabio's been to the well. He knows
been
what
there,
he can do.
But also,
Justis Huni hasn't yet.
And what you've got to remember is Huni's always been on the home show, the man, the pomp, the ceremony. He's coming in at relatively short notice into a bear pit. The guy's homecoming, right, in his hometown, his home football stadium. It's going to be like an absolute gladiatorial arena. They're going to be cheering and roaring every time Fabio throws a punch, whether they hit the gloves, the back of the head or not. Can he live up to not just the performance, but everything that goes around it? He's giving it the bigger now, but when it clicks and the lights come on and he's stood waiting to go in and they're booing him and they're probably slinging beer at him and effing and jeffing at him, and that's off. I've been nowhere near that stage, right? Nowhere near that stage. But I've been in a team of an opponent, and I fucking shit myself walking to the ring. And I was only walking to the ring and then sitting down, not having to step through and perform. I just think that in order for it all to come together for him on Saturday night, it's going to take a lot of stars to align, and I just don't think he's the guy for that. I don't see him giving Fabio any more than a tough 2 or 3 rounds. And I know I'm being very dismissive, but it's based on what I think I know about the sport.
Liam, he had the Kevin Lorena fight, didn't he, on one of the Riyads? I think it was the Day of Reckoning card, wasn't it? That he fought, and Lorena had him on skates, didn't he, like the last round or something like that? Look, Kevin, we saw him against Dubois. You know, we know what happened that night, but for me, he's not a massive. He's a bridgerweight, really, isn't he, Kevin Lorena?
Bridgerweight champion, mate.
He is the Bridgerweight champion, exactly. If you look at a body type for Bridgerweight, that's him, Kevin Lorena. But you know, he doesn't hit as hard as Fabio Wardley.
It's there, lads. It's there. That's your body type.
He doesn't hit anywhere near as hard as Fabio Wardley. So if Wardley catches that chin, and that's what I saw in that head-to-head that you said you watched as well, Wardley's just that confidence. He's like, he actually alluded to Deontay Wilder, didn't he? Saying, you know, you need to be perfect for. I don't think it's quite that because Huni can punch a little bit, but yeah.
Is he a father now?
Yeah.
His partner, is he a father now?
Yeah.
Extra motivation there for you as well. This is his first fight as a father, I believe.
Yeah.
Different, man. It's going to be totally different for Fabio. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you could look. Fabio has waited for this homecoming for this is the 3rd summer now, and for different reasons, because Ipswich have had back-to-back promotions and stuff's needed to be done on the stadium. He's just not been able to get the homecoming. This summer, yes, because of relegation, Jay, before you get it in again, no work needs doing to the stadium. He's finally getting the homecoming. And I will be honest, I was disappointed when it was Jarrell Miller, because without traipsing all that up again, someone that has popped hot that many times shouldn't be getting any opportunities. So when Miller pulled out injured, I wasn't that upset. Justis Huni hasn't done anything as a professional to show that he deserves to be in the ring with Fabio Wardley. However, everyone that you listen to talk about him says that he deserves the opportunity because of what they believe his talent is. So come into the Lions Den, come in as a number 1 unbeaten, number 1 ranking with an interim world title on the line and show if you've got it. I agree with what you said, Jay. I just don't think Huni has it about him. Kevin Lorena nearly had him out of there in the last couple of rounds.
Nearly beat him, yeah.
And that's, you know, Kevin Lorena, yes, he dropped Daniel Zaguara a couple of times a couple of years ago, but
not
a big puncher. That's the reality there.
He's not a puncher.
And the improvement with Fabio, like you say, is exponential from where he was when he beat Eric Molina out in Gibraltar on the White and Povetkin second fight. From there to where he is now, it's night and day. It's 7 years ago this weekend that he fought in a 1,500 seater tent on the other side of Ipswich for, I think, his second pro fight. Now there's going to be 25,000 on Saturday night at Portman Road.
Sorry, I was just saying, I think that Fabio Wardley's got the full package. He's articulate. He looks the part. I think he could be the next superstar if they market him right. And Frank knows what he's doing, certainly with heavyweights. I think Eddie Hearn's missed a trick. And I think he'll be kicking himself because Fabio's one of them people that could take the mantle from the likes of Anthony Joshua and Phil.
Fabio said he wanted to sign with Matchroom. He said if he had a level playing field, he'd have picked Matchroom, but Queensbury made a better offer.
He was with Matchroom, and Eddie didn't renew his contract. So he left once he kicked out the British title. We left Matchroom and went around. He done Boxer, he done Queensbury, and then Frank signed him.
Yeah.
I think they didn't see what Frank saw in him, the ability to improve, the ability to just maneuver himself through fights with skills that we didn't believe he had because of this white collar nonsense. But look, ultimately he's fought whatever level it is. The kid's fought, whether it's amateur or white level. He will stand there and have a fight.
All night.
I've noticed that his ability to think on his feet as well. Listen, he battered and blasted out of there an Olympic medalist.
Yeah.
Right, in Fraser Clark, who he'd a lot of people said he'd lost to in the previous one. You know, we just said that, you know, we thought he lost, or I certainly thought he could have got edged in that fight.
Yeah.
Blasting him out of there, just put a rubber stamp on that whole debacle. Listen, I'm better than him. And I picked him to lose the rematch because of what had happened in the first fight. Happy to eat humble pie. In fact, I got a follow out of him for it. I actually messaged him and said, listen, I didn't rate you before. I rate you now. All the ass kissing that you do when you get it wrong. But look, I'm a fan now. I'm on board.
We do that every week, mate.
I live my life by being fickle, chopping and changing and ass kissing.
Get Justis Huni on speed dial for
I'm telling you.
Sunday morning.
Back you from the start, mate. Back you from the start, kid.
There's one thing that worries me on Saturday night, and it's actually the atmosphere in the crowd. It's going to be so raucous and so loud for Fabio.
Pressure. Yeah.
There's a danger that he comes out with his chin in the air and gets caught by
something. He will. I think either way, Fabio's coming. He only knows one way. He has to make Huni have it with him. If he does,
he might get knocked down in the first couple of rounds. He could get knocked down. But
when Belly got his shot at Goodison against McCarby, he got dropped in the first, didn't he?
Yeah, good.
Look, different levels in terms of the opposition.
But call his brother that.
Yeah. The crowd does worry me in the sense that it's going to have Fabio's an emotional guy. You'll see him during the week. He'll be all over it and he'll be emotional in the ring walk. I just want the emotion to be channeled in the right way because for me, this is Huni's got 9 minutes in him. If Huni gets it done in the 9 minutes, then fair play to him. But if he doesn't get it done then, that's when Fabio takes over. And Fabio will either get a stoppage or take a very wide points victory. The reality is he'll get a stoppage, but he does have the potential for me, Fabio, to win it widely on the cards as well, if he needs to.
I think he hits too hard for Huni to be able to stay in there with him for 12. I think
12 as well.
It's a long 12, that.
Once he starts catching him clean, I think Huni his power bar will decrease, and I think he'll get him out of there.
I think he'll be there
second half.
Huni. I do. I think you know, if Fabio can't get to him, it'll be interesting. But I just feel he will. Like he's very underrated. In fact, look at the success Adelaide's having after Fabio banged him out. You know, he's good, Fabio Wardley. I think he'll get to Huni within 5 rounds. I think though,
I agree.
I think Huni might get overawed and start to trade. And that's going to be Fabio's world. If he can somehow find a way to make it a bit of a boxing match, then Huni could win many rounds. He could, and it'll be a tough night for Fabio. But I'm anticipating that the occasion will get to both of them, and it'll be a fight. And in my opinion, the only winner in a fight is Fabio Wardley. So I'm going Fabio within 5.
Yeah, I'm Fabio first half of the fight. So first 6, I'm going.
Fabio 5 to 7. I think he'll just want to settle down the first few rounds, avoid doing anything stupid, then get Huni out of there.
Humble Apple Crumbles just invented a new fighter. I think it's a mix of Anthony Yard.
There we go, Wardley. We've got Yardley by KO for Humble Apple Crumble. Hope you well, my friend.
Might get the Boassi fight out of him.
Orkan's got Wardley winning thanks to your prediction. I do agree with Huni being dangerous. Pat certainly wouldn't be surprised if Huni wins just because no one believes in him.
There is that. Yeah. Could Wardley take his eye off the ball looking past him? Do you know what no one's talking about in this as well? Depending on the manner of a defeat, if it happens to Huni, this could completely derail everything that Eddie Hearn's worked for. You know, this could derail him and ruin his career if he gets
bombed out and around.
Yeah, it could absolutely dent his confidence, his ability to come back from it. At the same, it's a flipping dangerous fight. But look, Eddie's not stupid. He's seen something in Huni. Has he seen something in Huni that he believes he can win, or is he just bringing an opponent to keep the show on the road for his partner?
Well, look, he's being paid really well. That's one thing, and they kind of said, look, we needed to take a risk and have a go at some point. So there. And look, Fabio Wardley, let's be honest with you, he's not Usyk, is he? You know, he's not an unbelievable boxer. He can fight like hell, and he's very powerful, and he's a tough man to beat. But if you're Justis Huni and he's got a decent amateur pedigree, he can box a bit. You know, if you're looking at a guy that can maybe get you towards a world title shot out of that top, 8, 9, 10 fighters in the heavyweight division, that undefeated Fabio Wardley is a great way to announce yourself on the scene. So the risk is definitely worth the reward for Huni. I can see why he's took it.
Don't disagree with you. You can see absolutely why they've put Huni in there. Look, and he's WBO #1. So the way you look at it is, he's in that position of deserving the shot. It was never going to be.
He meant to fight Moses Atama, wasn't it? That was done, but it fell through at the last minute. So it's meant to be Huni versus Atama. So basically, he can still, if he beats Wardley, be in a great position, just like he would have been if he beat Moses.
Look, it was never going to be Joseph Parker. It was never going to be Dubois. It was never going to be Usyk. Probably wasn't going to be Kabayel. So if you then look at the rankings and go across the governing bodies, on ranking merit alone, Justis Huni deserves the opportunity to be in there. But yeah. I do think it could have, like Jay's just said, could have a long-term effects on his career, because if he does get bulldozed out of there early, we see mental fragility.
We need to see the chin. We need to see the chin, because it didn't hold up great against Laurent. Look, he's undefeated, so he's doing something right, but he hasn't been cracked by Fabio Wardley yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, Atama's WBO number 1. Okay, so it's WBA. I think Fabio's WBA. Well, I don't know. I watched the preview show and they were saying it's WBA number 1 versus WBO number 1.
I think it was, but Moses won the other week, so that's probably pushed really down to 2. But anyway, he's in the top 3.
Yeah, look, they're highly ranked in both of them. But yeah, look, we've got Fabio doing the business, but it's an intriguing fight. So obviously, Justis Huni has every chance to do it. It's going to be a very, very fun one. Thanks to Hawkan, Humble Apple Crumble, and Pat, and of course Liam and Jay has always been a good way to kick off the week. We'll be back tomorrow for more. We got Keyshawn, Callum Simpson's fighting. Junto Nakatani will potentially have a look at as well. Of course, No Punches Paul will be talking about all the marinating going wrong in the world of boxing. Obviously, with Caleb Plant losing his way last night. You know, lots of other. Josh Kelly returning on Friday night as well. So we've got all sorts to
me and Liam will be back with Straight and By and Gay Talk, as we've now rebranded it, just so we don't leave anybody out.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh dear, that'll be back on Thursday, and then we've got a bumper week, boys. Been a pleasure. We'll see you next time, guys.
Thank you.